This meeting on September 26, 2019 to order. We'll start with the roll call.
Chair Long.
Here.
Vice Chair Cranston.
Here.
Trustee Boulderson.
Present.
Trustee Patton. Here. Quorum's present.
All right, we'll start with public comment. If any members of the public wish to address the Library Board of Trustees, they may come forward now. Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 3, approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. Has everybody had a chance to look through them? Any changes? I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Did you want to? I move to approve the minutes.
I'll second it. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All against? Oh, all against? All right, the motion carries and the minutes are approved. So we'll move on to item number 4, possible action for the Library Board of Trustees business.
And this should have been removed since there was no action, so you can,
There
nothing
is.
to deal with here.
So we will skip and move on to item number 5, Library Director reports.
All right. Well, Diane Baker, Interim Library Director for the record, and this should be the final report that I bring to you as the Interim Library Director, because number 1 on the list is October 2nd. Our new Library Director, Todd Colgrove, will be starting at the library, and we're looking forward to that. Wrapping into that, I don't have that elsewhere, but I had, I do have it just popping down to informational. With the Friends of the Carson City Library is looking to do a welcome event, potentially the second weekend in October, but things are still being set on that. So they are looking forward to be able to have an open meet and greet event for the community. Then the last position, we're going for that full staffing for our full-timers, library assistant for access services. I had October 14th here. It's been bumped to October 21st just because of some logistics thing, but coming together here in October. Just informational, I was out for a while. In a week in September, Amy Lauder, who is now out for a few days herself, was acting director. Everything went fabulous with our crew, so that was non-issue. Trustee emeritus status, I had contacted the Elko County Library regarding their situation. They have this position in place in Elko County. They are going through their archives to get me more information, because they did this like about 15 years ago. So she didn't have that information immediately available, wanted to see what they had, how they set it up, so I could share that with Todd, our DDA, so we could have that set up. So that's the status where we're at this point. I hope to have more information for you for the October meeting on that situation. Then library improvements, we did get capital improvement funds, not a huge amount, but $10,000, and that's to replace the handicap fixtures in the public restrooms. So moving a little bit on that, those really do need replacing. And then for the Nevada Library Association meeting is in Reno, November 3rd and 4th, and those are some of the days that were voted for closure, so all the full-time staff can attend. And we were able to also arrange for, and the Nevada Library Association put in an institutional pricing registration for those that send a certain number of individuals or more. And so we will have a savings from the regular registration. Early bird was $120, and ours will be $90 per person. So that's going to be much better in the budget. Then just you can see the activities listed there, and generally I wanted to say the chamber events with the new publisher for the Nevada Appeal. Great event on that part, was able to talk to the publisher, and he's still eager to keep, and to relook and keep a good community presence and community paper going on. So we do rely on that as our traditional media outlet, so that was very encouraging with what they're looking forward to. Grants update, some good things going on. Reports, of course, are for the last year's grants are due, but we did receive officially the Google Micro Grant and already underway, rolling things out on that. That's the continuation of the Grow with Google event that we had in June, and that made us eligible for one of these grants. And we'll be hearing more about that as well. Then the LSTA Community Enhancement Grant, that's a $10,000 grant from the State Library and Archives that is ready to get underway and to really help things take off with the makerspace. We had an individual scholarship awarded for a leadership class, and then a couple of other things that are we usually have announcements from the State Library at this point, the State Collection Development Grants, and the LSTA competitive grants. They're currently on hold. We're waiting for their schedule. I think they've changed their calendar some. I've gotten some second, third-hand information that they're coming out soon. But it was a little concerning that that this is a fair amount later than normal in the year. So that should still be on track. Then I wanted to give you just the wrap-up for the Adams Hub for Innovation, where there were a few events. The most notable one there is one of the companies, DLL Technologies. They had a chamber ribbon cutting, really great event that they had at the Hub and well-attended. I've been working with the NNDA outreach staff, Sean, and we're still moving forward with the toolbox, with the library having their information in that toolbox. And they do have a board. They have established an advisory board for the Adams Hub. And Margaret Smith is the first member of that board. She was also one of the individuals that was considered for trustee here. So they spirited her over there to that particular board, and she's very eager to continue with the library and maintain a good connection there. So we're really pleased with that. The other items were in the final wrap-up parts with the day-to-day operations. They have taken over, and we're just doing the final reconciliations of expenses and other aspects so we can wrap that part up. But the bright spot in all of that is we still do have a good working relationship with the Hop and May Adams Foundation and with Steve Neighbors. So that is the positive part in all of this situation. So are there any questions? Okay. Then.
Okay, we'll move on to item 5B, presentation and discussion of the budget reports.
Thank you again, Diane Baker, for the record. And I am still bringing you information from FY19. This is probably going to be the final. There's still some dribs and drabs they're wrapping up because of the changeover from the old system to the new system and having all that. But this is what you've received in your packet, and this information is so close to the final. I think this should be pretty close to a wrap on that. So you can see where we were with expenses In the general fund, you see that we did have salary savings, which we were expecting on that part. So some of the salary savings, we didn't transfer back, I think, as much as maybe the city was expecting, because we did use additional funds in our part-time and temporary staffing because of the shortages that we had during the year. But we still came out just fine with that. And pretty much most of the other categories, we were either right to the limit or very close to full expenditure of the line items. And then with the grants, that is the last item there. Again, if not full expenditure, very close on that. And there's still, on the planning grant, there's a couple of expenses that still need to clear on that. That's one of the last items. So the expenditures don't show all the final issues. Okay, and then just a quick overview. You can see where we were with the gift fund, and then the closeout information for the Adams Hub. You do have that in backup form. I did create, I'll pop onto the backup. If you had any questions, there is one page out of order in the PDF there. It's actually page 2 is in the wrong place. I think it was page 2. But there's, I'm sorry, it's further down, but I thought there was one that was out of the order there. What you're seeing again is how we are looking at the information from the new system. I think it will be a little easier. As a matter of fact, today I was at a meeting, a little workshop on additional ways to generate reports. That module hadn't been up until recently or wasn't working properly. We were kind of going around backdoor to get some of these reports for the meetings here, but it should be a little easier to generate some of these reports. So you have the detail, you have the summary, and then you have the account detail. So I will look at, go to the FY20 backup. I do have, I didn't have it in time for the publishing. There is a new widget, the visual for FY 2020 that is going to be all ready to go, similar format as what you were used to for FY 19. So you do have the detail for FY 20. We're underway. They're finally, we're getting more of the uploads are getting to the timeliness that they were expected now that we are, getting way more familiar with the system. And there are, I think we're pretty much on track where we expect to be. We have the only fund we have some work to do with the fiscal department is the gift fund. Some of our information is not 100% in the system at the moment, and we may have to wait for the reconciliation for it all to show appropriately, but that is one we are working on. And I don't know if you had any other questions. I would be glad to answer anything with regard to closeout of fiscal year 19 or are getting underway with fiscal year 20.
New person question, is the state fiscal year, federal fiscal year, when's the year start and stop?
State and the city and state have the July to June fiscal year. The federal is the October one. The way the federal grants that run through the state library, that's the Library Services and Technology Act funds, that really rolls through 2 federal fiscal years. So the funding that we're waiting for them to open the announcement for would be fiscal year 20. The funding for that wouldn't be available or wouldn't be actually granted until July of 20. So it really would come to us in fiscal 21, our fiscal 21, but that would be federal fiscal 20.
Pretty straightforward. Okay, thank you.
Sure. And that's what I have.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll move on to item number 6, other administrative reports. We'll start with item 6A and the creative learning update.
Maria Clesta, Creative Learning Manager for the record. So first things first, we've had freshman PSA visits again this month. So each year we have the freshman students at Carson High School come over to actually check out our digitorium space to see all the resources that are available for them. The main purpose for that is that as a freshman, they receive a public service announcement project, and a lot of the equipment that we offer, they can use that towards completing the project. So this year we had 17 different classes and about 450 students come through and check out our space. Most of these were run by Jay Hodnett, the Creative Learning Senior Library Assistant and Digitorium Facilitator. So she did a fantastic job working with Jen Menifee at Carson High School to coordinate all those class visits. We do have a couple makeup classes in October, but for the most part, we've gotten them all into the library this month. Normally, we do have them come in October, but it worked out nicely for them to come a little bit earlier this time around. Any questions about the BSA visits or anything like that? Great. And then secondly, I have information. So Diane had mentioned earlier about the Google Micro Grant. So that's the library's lead with digital skills. We're excited in August, we were awarded that opportunity, which is $1,000 that will be reimbursed to us for this program. We've been partnering with Join Inc., which is fantastic. This is our first time actually partnering with them. So they have, Daryl Smith from Join Inc. has been running the job seeking with Google classes. And then Vanna Bells, our creative learning librarian, is offering the job seeking with Nevada Career Explorer classes, which is a nice supplement to what they're learning with Google tools. With the Nevada Career Explorer, I just want to note that's offered mainly because of the Nevada State Library, which is fantastic. And we're actually a pilot library for them as well. So this is great for us doing these programs, so it ties in nicely with both project goals. But these program series started last week was the first class that we offered, and it extends into October. I believe the last date is October 12th for the classes. Any questions about the grant or? Okay.
Thank you, Maria. Okay, let's move on to item 6B, access services.
Irma Reinhardt, Access Services Manager for the record. So the first thing I have up here is library volunteers. The little Excel spreadsheet over there just shows how many hours our volunteers have put in over the last 2018, 2019 year, over 700 hours total between 10 adult volunteers. This number doesn't include all the teen volunteers that come in. So we are looking to, I guess, sort of spruce up the number of volunteers we have, and we do have quite a number of people interested in volunteering, whether they're under 18 or over 18. So we started having Anna Kurland, Access Services Librarian, and Jana Wiersma of Creative Learning to go over the applications and sort of do a mini interview with the volunteers to just get a feel for what they are like and see how much dedication and time they can put into volunteering. So I'm glad that we're getting that rolling again. They do a number of things between shelving, encoding, assisting with programs. It's really helpful for the staff and helpful for our patrons. We started with having youth volunteers screened first because they're easier to screen. And then we are looking to start adding over 18 this month. that process is a little bit more difficult. Over 18, they are required a background check, so it's just another layer for our staff and for the potential volunteers to go through. Are there any questions about this at all?
Good.
So I'm just curious if you could expand a little bit more on how volunteers are onboarded, if they receive training, and if there's any limits around number of hours that they volunteer.
Yeah, so there is a limit based on the city, and I'm not quite sure off the top of my head how many hours maximum they can volunteer a week.
It's in the, you can, I believe, up to 20 hours.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
But in terms of how volunteers are trained, it kind of depends on where they're going to go. So typically our 18 and under crowds, so those still in school, they're often helping with the youth side of things. So their supervisor is Jana Wiersma, who is a creative learning. So she trains them on everything from, shelving and things like that to how to assist with a program. And then Anna does the same thing for some of the volunteers that come over onto the access side of things. So training on how to shelf read, things of that nature, the policies of what you can and cannot do here at the library.
Thank you so much.
Are we looking at a target number of volunteers that we want to have?
Not really a target number, more, I guess, target hours. So we had about 700 last year. So we're looking, hopefully, for adult volunteers anyway, hopefully about 800 hours.
And what's the youngest that they can be to volunteer under 18?
14.
Thanks, Armel. All right.
I have one more thing.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's all right. So the last thing I have is database cleanup. So from this list here, you can see we have quite a few categories of library card patrons. Anything from general adult to homebound, premier, things like that. Total, we have over 40,000 patrons in our system that are active. So one of the things that Access is looking to do, hopefully before the end of February, is have this whole database cleaned up. And what I mean by that is ensuring that phone numbers, zip codes, just the nitty-gritty details of the accounts are accurate and formatted correctly. Having duplicate accounts removed so that when patrons come up, we find the correct patron, and so that patrons receive the notifications that their books or items are ready for pickup or due back soon. Because formatting does play a huge part of this, I do want my staff to be able to clean this database up. Because it is 40,000 records, and because we are doing it manually, going through each single record, it is going to take some time, but I'm hoping to have this done before the end of February. Are there any questions about that?
What data do we collect for the patron accounts? You said zip code and name. Is that it?
So patron record is going to have first and last name, date of birth, address, and then phone number or an email
So
address.
it's PII.
Yeah.
So how do you, when you delete them, do you clear? Do you do any kind of formatting to really get down to the deep level cleaning, or you just delete them from the database?
So if it's a duplicate record, or
Just if it's an expired account, let's say.
so if it's an expired account, that'll just be removed, and that's if the card has been expired for 5 years.
It has to have been expired for 5 years before you delete them.
I believe it's 5 years.
3 to 5 years. There are two different things. We do a purge at sometimes
Yeah.
when that is just not manually, record by record, but that where a purge list is put together. But it's been almost 2 years
Yeah.
since we did that purge. And that one doesn't require a record by record review. That is just pulled by the dates, and that's up to 3 years. And then this is another level, but what the value of the database cleanup is exactly where you're going. That the information that we're able to pull from the database, or when we work with some other systems to try to analyze our patrons and information, that gives us the best detail and the most robust information.
Right.
Where we have, and we did it under our planning grant. We have been working with another company, Gale Analytics, and they, although they took the total of our information not quite a year ago, about 9 months ago, and that was only about a year after the purge. So we had pretty good information regarding current patrons. And I've been able to get some reports that we use for planning, where since the subscription is wrapping up and it's a little pricey, so it's not one that we can continue on in our regular budget, we're going to do some final reports before the subscription ends, and that will be some information we'll be able to bring to you and show you, the before and after and how things have changed in a 12-month period, or pretty close to that. So, but the value of working in that system is based on the data that we were able to provide. So these database cleanups are very important.
No, I agree. I'm more concerned about the security of it because of so much PII in a single location, especially if we're keeping it for longer than the user needs it to be kept, if their accounts are expiring, things like that. So that's just a level of concern for me. But you guys are purging it, you're cleaning it up, so it's good.
I would second that concern about security, especially.
And that is one of the aspects that does relate also to the Nevada Library Cooperative, and they do have the security initiatives in there, so it's not strictly our level of security as well, where it's the whole group, right, the network security that is set into the cooperative. But that type of thing does take constant vigilance, and yeah, you can't just say, oh, we got great security, and 2 years later, you don't.
Right. It's a moving target. Well, I did have one more question. We do not, so I heard you say we keep track of patrons' names, addresses, phone numbers, email, not anything they checked out, not titles.
So if they have an item checked out, it shows up on their account. But once they return the item, that's cleared from their record.
Thank you.
All right, and if there's no more questions, thank you very much.
Thank you.
No, we're good, sorry.
No, that's good. All right, let's move on to item 6C, the collection development update.
Diane Baker, I will bring this for Amy Lauder, who is out for a few days this week on some well-earned vacation. What you have there are pretty straightforward, where we do have the updates on what they're doing with readers' advisory skills, and it's a regular question that we have, especially if an individual has, loves a certain author, has read everything, and where can we go with that? So there are a number of things, not only individual training, but we do have a subscription to what's called Novel List, and that is a specific program that is built into into Polaris, and it does show up where individuals can identify, go, oh, want to read something else. So there are a number of ways for that information to be available. And as you see also, Rachel March, who is Senior Library Assistant, is continuing to develop her skills as part of our professional development that we have for every full-time staff member required for that. And then the Boys and Girls Club, a constant refresh. We had that great program last year where we dedicated the state collection development funds to the Boys and Girls Club to really get that collection back up and going, and also expand it into the teen area to give them a more robust collection as well. And this is continuing on, and we're able to keep that program going and keep that fresh, and that's what you're seeing here, where they turn over and bring in new materials for the individuals there. And it's still a very popular collection, especially the youth collection that is well used, and with one of our great part-time workers, James Wernett, is over there and is just well loved in his role there. So if there's any questions, I'll try to answer them for that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Diane. All right, item number 7, board member announcements and requests for information. Do you want to start first?
I do. So I have a couple things, if we can add to the next agenda. So first, we have a new director coming. I know that in his interviews with us, he mentioned he seems to have a pretty specific vision of where strategically Carson City Library fits into the fold statewide. So I'd like him to expand on that and to give kind of a rundown on where his vision is directed, if that makes sense, a little introductory. And I don't know if that's customary or not, but it, seems to me you wouldn't have that much turnover, so we can start a new tradition.
Yes, indeed, okay. Got it.
So that's my first item. The second, of course, Census 2020 is here before we know it. I know that the American Library Association is partnering with the Census Bureau. This is the first time the U.S. Census will be largely online. And I would like some type of, I don't know, a report or an update somewhere, if possible, Madam Chair, if we could put on the agenda for a standing item perhaps until the census is over, just to know what our efforts are there.
What kind of efforts?
Yeah, do you mean like our efforts of like doing outreach to get people to come in and do the census, or?
Yes, for many patrons, it could be that the only internet access is at the library. So given that the folks who are least likely to be counted are potentially overlapped in that population, I'd like to catch them and like to know what our efforts are around catching them.
If I can respond a little bit to that.
Yes,
At
please.
this point. We have been in contact with Census 2020 staff. They have been making the rounds. Of course, initially it was to get census workers and using the library as an operation for that. The Nevada State Library Archives and Public Records is also coordinating statewide efforts with public libraries, especially due to this being largely online situation. And as I understand it, just going out door to door is like absolutely last step in that. But we are looking forward to being a full participant in that. But having that as a regular report out item, no problem.
We'll keep it hopefully at the top of our minds. I know door to door is great if you have a door, so people who are homeless, transient, or otherwise don't have a door, they might be at the library, but that might be the only place you can catch them. And then my last question would be, this might be for the new director when he gets here, but the legislative interim has started. And if there are any committees, any advocacy efforts that the board needs to be made aware of that maybe that would be of particular interest, that would affect policy around what goes on at libraries in the state, I would like to be kept abreast of that as well.
I love hearing you say that. Okay. That's great. Yeah.
That's Diane's area.
Yeah.
She does a really good job at keeping us up to date. And I don't think we had anything in the last session that was that took a lot of the board.
Most of the advocacy was with regard to budgetary items. There were a couple of things to keep watch on that related to weapons in libraries, and that that was the other main issue that was in place at this time. So I know they are doing some initial work at the state library, of course, because their budget, actually, they get underway no time, probably in the next few months.
It's around the corner, yeah.
Right, which you know full well. And the Nevada Library Association also is, has a regular committee. I was co-chair of the Government Relations Committee last session.
Great.
So, okay, great,
So if
thank you.
that's all right to add to the agenda.
Yeah,
I don't want to make
absolutely.
these meetings longer, but if
No, I
No, those
think,
seem worthwhile,
yeah, I think so. I think that needs to be on our,
especially the director giving us his vision. I think that's important.
I think so too. Do I need to do anything on that as far as adding to the agendas? We can just do it?
The information, agenda, just especially board members can contact either through the chair or through the library if there are items of interest to be added to the agenda. And then that would go to, if it comes to us, it would go to the chair and then be reviewed for addition to the agenda. So it's not, if you don't do it now, you can't do it at all, at that point.
Okay. So I have two things. Actually, one is just, Diane, can you make sure that we all have the information we need to log in to do the board training? Because we do need to get that taken care of so that we can,
Okay,
I think everybody has it, but
I can resend.
and there's an app, there's a Moodle app, so you can do it on your phone, which
Okay,
I
yeah,
was
because
so
we
excited to
went
see.
with Julie, we did have, there were a couple of issues, but we got it.
oh, good.
So I can
So we'll ask you when we
resend.
have questions about the app.
Julie.
I'll show you, it's a little orange.
So I will resend the login data.
Okay.
It's
I
very
know I have it.
straightforward.
Yeah.
But just so you don't have to go searching down into your information on that.
Yeah, and I just wanted to remind everybody that we needed to get on that since
It is important.
it's really important. And then the other thing is just to talk about the November, December meeting dates. So we usually combine the November, December meeting. We have fulfilled our required meeting number this year, but we don't want to wait till January, I don't think. But do you have, so Diane and I looked at the calendar and it's
Sorry, I let this
It's
go to
definitely
sleep.
not going to be a Thursday, but I know that the calendar is really even full even for other days. So
Other holidays, I think, are on Christmas and New Year's are on Wednesdays this year, so right smack in the middle of the week, aren't they?
yeah.
Yes.
So that's not,
Yeah, and then a lot of the dates are just taken up by this room.
got it.
The calendar of this room is probably the biggest.
Yeah, let me, sorry, I didn't have
Does our
that one up.
meeting have to be here? Do we
It's
just do
easier
it
here
because it's
because of
convenient? Because, yeah.
recordings.
but-
We,
Recording and video.
we do it here, and it was at the request of the, the city manager to have it here. It does the ease of recording meetings and the like. We have had them at other locations and done recordings and forward the recordings, especially if our recording secretary wasn't able to be here. But if it's here, it's definitely easier, but we are not 100% tied here if we have to have a meeting and we don't have an opportunity to use this room.
I wonder if maybe there's an opportunity to have a meeting that's non-traditional time or day.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've had meetings
members of the
Fridays, we've
public.
done,
Saturday meetings, is that an option?
I've never had one. Tamar, can you comment?
Just a couple of workshops, but
Okay. I just wonder about public input. I mean, no one's here, so if we could have it at a time where maybe more folks might be more inclined to attend.
We can entertain that. Oh, I hate this, sorry.
pick the
I logged out and
crosswalks.
it's like, or I let it go to sleep.
it's also the video and
Yeah, it's, there's,
It really is a pain if we don't do it here. We did.
a lot of people out of their regular hours.
yeah, and some of the individuals would either have to have overtime or,
State facilities,
Todd's going,
unfortunately, I don't-
Oh, yeah. We've got
especially we got more than a few in town.
plenty, yeah. There's plenty, especially in Carson City.
I happen to work with one. No.
Yep, yep. I just wonder as a matter of public engagement,
Yeah.
it
No, I
might
understand.
be, you know,
5 o'clock is at a weird time after everyone's getting off work to come in and do a meeting like this.
and I'm not opposed, I'm just curious if we've got kind of a quasi-booked schedule anyway, maybe it's an opportunity to do some different schedules. Same deal.
So what I have on the screen now for you, this is the calendar that the coordinator that handles the Sierra Room sent to me. It's November and December, and the November is like, oh, there's several days there, but our meeting will barely have been 2 weeks prior, so that will be very, very close. The 15th, if you wanted to look at in November, the 15th is a potential. The 22nd is a little close to Thanksgiving week. Some people start exiting at that point. So and then the 27th, which again looks empty, is right before Thanksgiving. That would be a problematic day. Plus, the library does close early that day for one of. So December, again, that's where, so we have potentials on Fridays or Mondays. Oc- uh, 24th, right, yeah.
And that would be like a 5 o'clock, like it has been.
Yeah, I think it was like a November, can you go back to November real quick?
I can. Okay, so we're in November at this point.
So it was November 15th.
Yes. And so that would be that would be about a month. Because it would be
That's probably fine. Fridays are always a little iffy for me since I have base on the weekends, but generally speaking, the base I have to go on the first weekend or the second weekend of the month. It's very rarely I have to go on the third unless it's a special situation. And I can tell you pretty quickly. I have the schedule on my phone, which unfortunately is not on me.
Okay, so that would be the third Friday of the month.
And that should be fine for me.
That still leaves you almost 2
Yeah.
months without a meeting, because when you meet till January.
So then December, can we go back to December?
yeah.
So I think it was like the 9th or the 13th, I think would be the best.
I'm okay with doing a Monday on the 9th.
Sure.
I think that would be a good kind
Okay.
of halfway point.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, then if there are any other things, then you contact either me or the chair, and that would be
November
our
13th,
November
The
9th.
9th.
December 9th.
December, sorry,
November.
December.
What
So
was
November 15th.
15, okay.
Yeah. November 15th, December 9th, or December 13th.
Those are the 3 dates.
Those
You
are like
wanna
the
do
3
all-
days. Yeah.
I like the 9th, and the 15th should be fine. I'll find out and tell you as soon as I can.
Are you guys all good with the 9th?
Or
I think, yeah.
December,
Yeah, December 9th.
December 9th is fine. It's a Monday, it's fine.
Yeah.
And then did we choose a November date? I'm sorry.
15's tentative.
But what,
So we're only doing one meeting?
a combined
'Cause we're
November,
gonna
Oh, we're
combine
not
December
going to do
meeting.
two?
Nope,
No.
we're only
It's a
doing one.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Okay,
It
Let's
would be
do
a
the 9th.
Okay,
I think that was
okay, so we'll do
halfway.
October 25th, no, 24th, and then
yeah,
we'll meet again December 9th.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we combine the November, December, so there's not, just for the holidays.
I understand.
A little easier.
Yeah,
No, that's perfect. That works for me.
okay, so December 9th.
Sounds
Let's,
good.
Okay.
I think that's it for me. Anybody else? Okay, then we'll move on to item 8, public comment. If anybody from the public wants to come forward, you may do so at this time. Seeing none, we'll move on to adjournment. I'll entertain a motion.
I move to adjourn.
We're adjourned.
I'll second.
We're adjourned.
I'll second.
Adjourned.